Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, True Crime Files with Kathy. This is a really, really short news clip. A toddler managed to reach and put its hands through a gap in the fence to touch a wolf in the zoo. Now, beggar's belief, isn't it? You wonder how this managed to happen with, like, normally when I've gone to zoos, there's been like two barriers before the live animals, especially like the more dangerous animals. But you might want to ask, where were the parents? Why did the parents not stop a toddler? Obviously, the toddler was 17 months old. So he's just walking around, but you would think the parents would have a closer leash on their child. Simple reason is because if a child is running around or waddling around how toddlers may do, I forget what they're like at 17 months for walking, but not only could the animal hurt the child, a stranger could take your child, and you'd be none the wiser if you didn't have your eyes on your child at all given times. So, something was going to bound to happen. Either the child was going to get injured by a wild animal, or someone was going to take their child. Um, because the parents were sitting on a bench, busy on their mobile phones, and they were about 20 to 30 feet away from the child. Now, how stupid is that? Especially both parents. I don't think the news says how young the parents were, but I should imagine they're going to be youngsters and don't have no sense of danger and that. So, I'll play you this news clip, but when I listened to this just now, it really angered me because, children need eyes on all the time. I know you can't keep your eyes on them every second of the day. It'd be impossible to. But when you're going to a zoo, if you're letting your child walk around or run around, you've got to keep an eye on them. It's not too bad if he's in a buggy and you're busy on your phone. That's fine. That's understandable. But when you're at a zoo and your child's running around, anything untoward can happen to that toddler. It's just frustrated me so much, that every child deserves a parent and not every parent deserves a child. And I'm glad they're being done for endangerment to a child because it is endangering the child. But I'll play you this news clip anyway, and I'll get off my soapbox because it really annoyed me. Right, let's play this for you.
The parents of a toddler are facing child endangerment charges after their child stuck his hand into a wolf enclosure at a zoo. A wolf got a hold of the toddler's hand, but thankfully the injury is minor. Let's go live now to CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen. Tom, break down what happened here.
Yeah, Liz, well, good to be with you. A really terrifying scene here unfolding over the weekend with that 17-month toddler sticking their hand through the fence of a wild wolf enclosure and getting bit by the wolf. Fortunately, no serious injuries to report here. The child is expected to make a full recovery. But as to what happened here, apparently, according to the police report, the parents were sitting about 30 feet away, buried on their phones, seated on a bench, while their child was up close to this enclosure. Now, I went inside. We weren't allowed to film. We weren't allowed to take photos while we were in there, but I could just describe to you what exactly we saw because we went right to the wolf enclosure to see it for ourselves. And what we saw was a wooden fence, basically 3 beams on the fence, and then about 6 feet of distance between that perimeter fence and the actual fence of the enclosure. It is not a crazy thought to think that a small child could dart underneath and get dangerously close to these animals. Prosecutors, though, are saying that both of these parents are responsible. They're facing 1 count of endangering the welfare of children. Each parent is facing that count because it is within reason, according to the prosecution, that parents should be responsible for the safety of their children in the event that there is imminent danger or the potential for danger. And let's be real, these zoos are home to wild animals, apex predators like these wolves. And so theoretically, this is a somewhat dangerous environment for a small kid without adequate parental supervision. And so that's what the prosecution is pushing back on here in order to bring charges against. Another thing that's going to be looked at here, Liz, of course, is protocol with the zoo. Was the zoo maintaining safe and secure spaces for people to come inside and not be at risk of getting injured? One legal expert who we spoke to said that fortunately, this was a better case scenario out of all the things that could have happened. This could have been a lot worse for this child. I don't know if you caught that 60 Minutes report that Anderson Cooper did about a year or a year and a half ago, where he almost got nipped by a wild wolf. But these wolves, they may look kind of cute and fluffy, but they are apex predators. That is something that everyone should keep in mind when they are taking their children, even to a family-friendly environment like a zoo, Liz.
Absolutely. Tom Hansen, a great reminder. Always be careful when you're at a zoo around apex predators. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so you would expect, even if there was a gap in the fence, if you've got your toddler with you and you're like right by your child, you would see if your child was going to sneak through a hole in the fence or underneath a gap of a fence. So you would sort of say, no, don't do that. No, dangerous, But because the child was left to his own devices, there was no one there. And, if I had been near that child and, saw what he was doing, I would have tried stopping that child myself and then find the parents and then bollock the parents, because that's just the way I am. I've done it once before when we was on holiday. And, the parents thinking of bollocking for me. Because not only did I save their child from drowning while on the banana boat on holiday, the child had actually gone underneath the banana boat. So I grabbed the child and sort of like pulled him up. And then, because he was like crying and everything else, he was only about 5 or 6 years old. And this is going back probably, I don't know, 17 years ago now. And we walked up, we asked the child where your mum and dad is. And they pointed up to the cafe, which was quite a distance to walk from the seafront. And then you had to go up a big steep slope to where the cafe is. This is down in Devon Cliffs. And when I walked in, and I said, is this your child? They said, yeah, it is. And I said, well, I've just saved him from drowning from underneath the boat. I did not expect their reaction. They wasn't concerned. They wasn't thankful to me for, possibly stopping their son from drowning. All they were concerned was where I grabbed the boy. He said to his mum, his shoulder hurt. And I said, well, that might be me, because I just grabbed him by the arm to pull him up, because I was stood to the side of the boat watching my children on the boat. I was right there, ankles deep in the water, sort of thing. And she couldn't give a damn. And I just let rip into her and, basically told her in very polite language that they didn't deserve to be a parent. And I felt like reporting it to the police, but I was just too angry to have reported it to the police. But I'm glad I did a good deed that day. A child was saved by me, so that's all I care. But yeah, we shall see what happens with the parents, if they, what charges they get. So thanks all for watching. Please click like and subscribe and share if you can. Till the next one.